I shouldn't be here. There was a moment on that road where my life quietly formed, and I walked away without knowing why. It was October, and the day felt harmless. Blue sky, warm air, the kind of afternoon that lowers your guard without asking permission. I had no idea this ordinary road would follow me for the rest of my life. I stood there waiting, thumb out, watching cars pass, like they always do. Nothing felt dangerous. Nothing ever does at the beginning. That's the trick. Fear never announces itself when it first arrives. When the old car pulled in, I noticed how tired it looked. I remember thinking nothing more than, at least I'm moving again. That thought still tightened something in my chest. As I walked toward the driver's window, something in his stillness slowed me down. Not fear, not yet, just awareness. The kind your body whispers quietly before your mind is ready to listen. Up close, his face told me nothing. No warmth, no threat, just empty focus. I've learned since then that blank expressions don't mean safety. Sometimes they mean there's nothing holding someone back. When he motioned for me to get in, I hesitated. Not long enough to refuse. Just long enough for my instincts to flare and be ignored. I still remember how easily I convinced myself to stay quiet. The door closed. The engine started, and just like that, my world shrank to the inside of an old car, to the thin, dangerous space between two strangers who knew nothing and everything about each other. The countryside rolled by, calm and beautiful. I tried to relax, tried to believe this was just another ride, another forgettable story. Fear is easy to dismiss when everything looks peaceful. I glanced at him, searching for something human. A smile, a glance back, anything at all. He never looked at me once, and that silence began to feel deliberate, heavy, chosen. When his arm suddenly crossed my body, my breath caught, not violently, not loudly, just enough to know something had shifted. A boundary crossed without permission is never accidental, never harmless. He handed me the passports like it was nothing, like this was normal, like this was something he'd done many times before. My hands took them before my mind could react or stop them. One face, then another, then another. Young women, ordinary smiles. People who looked like they trusted the world. And suddenly, the car felt far too small to breathe in. He tapped the passports as if explaining something without words. No emotion, no urgency. And I didn't understand yet, but I felt the meaning sink somewhere deep and cold inside me. I gave them back carefully. Slowly, I remember thinking, don't react, don't show anything. The glove box snapped shut like punctuation at the end of a sentence I never wanted finished. When he turned off the highway, I didn't say a word. I told myself it was a shortcut. I told myself not to panic. Silence felt safer than asking questions I wasn't ready to hear answered. The road grew narrower. The world grew quieter. No cars, no houses. Just us, moving away from everything that felt public, visible, and safe. That's when I knew we were alone. I saw the trees ahead and felt my stomach drop. Forests are beautiful from the outside. Inside, they swallow sound, distance, and people sometimes without leaving a trace behind. The light disappeared almost instantly. Shadows crawled across the dashboard. The air felt heavier, thicker, like the forest itself was leaning closer, listening to us breathe. I watched the trees slide past inches from the window. I moved my hand closer to the door without thinking. Instinct doesn't ask permission when danger gets close enough to touch. The car slowed. Too slow. Every muscle in my body tightened at once. I remember thinking, very clearly, This is where it happens. That thought changes you forever. Then suddenly, he sped up. No explanation, no relief, just motion. I didn't know why I was still alive, but I knew not to move, not to breathe wrong, not to exist too loudly. Light began to break through the trees. I loosened my grip just a little, terrified that even relief might trigger something I couldn't take back once it started moving. When we burst out of the forest, the sky looked unreal. Too bright, too open, like I had crossed back into the world by accident. Not permission, not safety. Houses, roads, signs of life. And only then did it hit me how close I had come to disappearing without a sound, without witnesses, without ever being found at all. As the highway came back into view, my body reacted before my thoughts did. My breathing slowed. My hands loosened. I wasn't safe yet, but for the first time, I felt closer to the world again than I had in a long while. When the car finally stopped, I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my bag and stepped out without a word. I didn't thank him. I didn't look back. I just needed distance between us immediately. I watched the car pull away until it vanished into traffic. Part of me expected it to turn around. Part of me knew better. The silence afterward felt enormous, heavy, and almost unreal. Standing alone on the roadside, the shock finally caught up to me. Not panic, not relief, just a hollow stillness where fear had been moments before, leaving nothing behind but air. My body gave out before my mind did. I sat down on the gravel, shaking, exhausted, letting the cold ground remind me slowly that I still existed in this world. As evening settled in, the world felt too open and too quiet. Survival doesn't feel heroic in the moment. It feels small, lonely, and unfinished, like something important is missing. I slept on the side of the road because I had nothing left. No fear, no thoughts, just darkness, breath, and the quiet hope barely formed that morning would come. When I woke up, the first thing I did was look at my hands. I needed proof. Proof that I was still here. Proof that it had really ended the night before. I stood up and kept moving. Hitchhiking again. Living again. But something inside me had shifted permanently. Even if premeditated NAT yet have words for what it was. Life didn't stop after that day. Time moved forward like it always does. And I learned how trauma can walk beside you quietly, without ever being seen by anyone else. Years passed quietly. The memories stayed dormant, patient. Some experiences don't fade. They wait for the right moment to remind you they're still alive inside you. From the outside, I looked normal, older, settled. But survival leaves fingerprints that never quite wash off, no matter how much time goes by afterward. Sitting in that cafe years later, everything felt safe, ordinary, predictable, and that was exactly when the past found its way back to me without warning. The conversation drifted too close to old roads and old choices. I felt the memory stir long before I understood why my chest suddenly tightened like that. And when I saw his face on the screen, there was no shock. Only recognition. My body already knew the truth my mind had avoided for years until then. The forest came back all at once. The car. The silence. My hand on the door. Nothing felt distant anymore. The memory was suddenly complete again. I wondered how many people never made it back out, and whether my silence that day had meant more than I wanted to admit to myself. In that moment, I understood something heavy. Surviving doesn't mean the story is over. Sometimes it means you carry it forward alone, quietly. The cafe buzzed around me, unaware. Life continued as if nothing had changed. But truth doesn't need witnesses to be real once you know it. I walked back outside into the city, carrying everything with me. You don't leave these moments behind. You learn how to live beside them. The trees overhead looked familiar. Harmless Evan. But I remembered what they once hid, and I knew I would never forget again. Not completely. Some roads stay empty at night. Some stories end without witnesses. If you want more real stories like this, please subscribe, like, and share so the silence doesn't win.